Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. Tonight I'd like to talk to you about compelled speech in Australian business. I was recently listening to an interview that Jordan Peterson gave to 3AW down in Melbourne. Jordan Peterson is doing his tour around the world for his new book, and he gave an interview with Neil Mitchell. And during that interview, which is a fantastic one, I'll link to it in the description of this video. During that interview, Neil asked him about Qantas. Now, Qantas is the national airline for Australia, the international carrier that was one of the oldest airlines in the world. You can go see one of their remote museum out at Longreach in the middle of Queensland. Now, Qantas got into the media because they have provided information to their staff compelling them to use particular words. So I thought I'd share a clip of this interview with you, and then we'll have a look at the article and a few other things. So let me transition.
You've sort of been described as a warrior against political correctness. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Tell me about this then. Our national carrier, Qantas, got some attention earlier this week. And I was thinking about this, so I knew you were coming in. And they were taking advice from a diversity group that's publicly
Yeah, that's a bad
funded.
idea. Yeah, that's a bad idea.
They wanted to ban words like guys and chairman, husband and wife, replace words like mankind and chairman. What's your reaction to that?
I think that it would be better if people tried to solve some real problems instead of playing these idiot diversity games. I think that everyone who plays identity politics, whether they play it on the right or the left, is going to pay for it in ways they can hardly imagine. It's a very counterproductive way of dividing up the world. It's impossible to come to a peaceful solution in the identity politics universe. Even the identity politics types themselves, they've run into this problem they call intersectionality, right? So you classify people by race and by sex, let's say. So, and seek for equity along those dimensions. But then, well, what about the intersection between those dimensions? So you have enough ethnic minorities in your organization, let's say. You match by population, which is a foolish way of doing it, but you do that. And maybe you're matched by sex. But then, well, what about the intersection between race and sex? Well, and then what about the intersection between race, sex, ethnicity? Then you could add social class to that. Then you could add social proclivity. Then you could add attractiveness. There's a never-ending way of dividing people up into groups, and you can't equalize across all those ways. It's just technically not possible.
Do you think people need to make a stand on issues like this? And when an airline like Qantas makes these decisions, do they need to stand against it? Do they need to boycott it? Do they need to do that sort of thing?
I think they need to understand it at a deeper level. It's like we have to decide if we're going to divide people up, if we think that dividing people up primarily by their group identity is a good idea. And it's not. It's a bad idea. It will lead to an enhancement of our tribal proclivities. And I don't think that if you're an advocate of peace, that you would push and advocate for our further division into tribal entities. It's not wise.
Is this transient? Will we move?
I'll stop it there. Now, there's a few terms I want you to keep on the top of your mind. The intersectionality, where all these different identities are intersecting. The tribal proclivity that Peterson refers to, where we're breaking our culture or civilization up into smaller and smaller tribes and competing with each other. And where Neil Mitchell tries to bring attention to the fact, should we boycott this? What should we do? What should we do? So I went and had a look and found the article on news.com. Now, when I first saw this, I got angry and think, what, bloody hell, they're controlling our damn speech. So, making their workers say particular words, it's bullshit. And I recorded a video where I was just ranting more than now. But I wanted to dig a bit deeper. So I missed this one entirely because I'm just so used to hearing about this rubbish, really, probably because I'm consuming so much online content that it seems normal now for people to be trying to do this stuff. So Qantas staff told to avoid gender inappropriate terms like husband and wife. A leaked document revealed that Qantas staff are encouraged to avoid. Reveals the words Qantas staff are encouraged to avoid because they are not gender appropriate. So I won't go through the entire article. I'll highlight a few bits. I like it how the author is saying that in the same way, always referring to mum and dad can make families feel excluded, both same-sex couples and single-parent families. Well, then you either have two dads, two mothers, or maybe just one mother or one father. You know? They want to have staff use phrases like partner, spouse, parents, so as not to discriminate against LGBTI families. Well, they still have mums and dads in them. They just have different ratios. Tony Abbott, our former PM, said it was political correctness that's gone over the top. So where's this all come from? How's this appeared? They've got a brochure here that's somewhat polished. These were the leaked images. So someone obviously took a photograph on a screen and sent it to a reporter, and they put this article together to get some clicks. It got me. I was quite concerned. Now, this has come from the Diversity Council of Australia, and they're a 450-member organisation. So who else do you have to boycott that's providing this information out to their staff? Let's go and visit the Diversity Council of Australia. Let's have a look at their website, because I did not know that this organisation existed at all. Perhaps that's just how naive I am, and I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so let's look. What do they cover? Inclusion, gender, culture and religion, disability and accessibility, generations and mature age, Indigenous, LGBTIQ+, flexible and work life, family and domestic violence, mental health. So these are a whole range of different ways that they can identify people. And when these intersect, if they want to get equality of outcome, because that's what the socialists want, they want equality of outcome. They don't give a shit about equality of opportunity. They will step on your opportunity, restrict your opportunities to ensure they get their equality of outcome. Now, they've got a few things here. They've got, their annual debate. So it's a very polished organization with lots of big names involved in it. Look at their partners here. Now, you can't boycott all of them. Cisco, and I better give my router back. So what have they provided? What are they doing? What are they giving? So I found their Words at Work video, and we're going to have a look at this. Okay, now I should warn you, this may trigger you.
G'day, I'm David Morrison, Chair of the Diversity Council Australia. Every day at work, there are hazards that you walk past without realising just how dangerous they are. In every office, there are things that you shouldn't be exposed to for long periods of time. Because some things are just plain bad for you. I'm talking about the power of words.
Bad words. Wrong thing. Oh no, we can't have that. What if there's two mums?
The research has told us for years how language cuts people out or cuts them down.
The global career mapping project that we're working on is actually looking at how we...
Come on, girls. Let's get cracking.
Girls?
And yet it still happens.
I know I get called feisty and bossy behind my back. Oh, and ball breaker too. But you wouldn't say that about a bloke, would you?
Yeah,
Just
no,
for
you
speaking up?
You say worst thing. Worst thing about blokes.
When I go to meetings, the men always try to talk over me. And it's really disappointing.
We don't talk over you.
No, you cut me off all the time. Like the other day, I was trying to get...
We don't cut you off.
She needs to do a personality assessment. Get more assertive.
Oh, my mate's having an 80s theme party.
Oh, that's so gay. I mean, it's like lame and it's like stupid and
wrong thing.
it's dumb.
80s is actually cool.
All sorts of people cop it. Old labels that don't do justice to who we are today.
Abo.
Retard.
Pufter.
Fag.
Dyke.
When it comes to words at work, we've all got to walk the talk.
Words. Making people feel good and bad since offices were invented.
David, when you say walk the talk, you mean that as a figure of speech, right?
Now, I don't know if their office is really like that. If you have to be so on edge, you know, this is obviously this has to be a joke. This to kind of get a bit of humor and people can laugh at it. You can't like or dislike the video, but you can't leave any comments on the video. And it's maybe I should share a story with my experience with this. I'm an architect, and I have worked for a stint for the government. Now, I've been trying to think back, did I ever encounter any training like that? I'm not that old. Now, I think there was an opportunity to do some training like this. But the problem with it was that it was given during our lunch break and they weren't going to pay me to do it. So I didn't do it. And then I thought back even further, back to when I was in high school. I was working at a checkout. You know, this is back in the day before everyone did everything themselves, because we use self-service checkouts now. I had to scan items, beep, beep, beep. And I think it was called care training, where we learned to communicate with each other and to talk and deal with customers. Now, I did it because I was getting paid. Hell, I think I was earning $7 an hour or something. So I went and did the training, and I remember very clearly when during the training they were telling us to use particular words in certain situations. And I turned to my colleague next to me, who was a middle-aged person, and I said, "This is newspeak. Double think." Of course, they turned back to me and thought I was nuts, a bit weird, and a super nerd, which is probably all true, and didn't know what I was talking about. But that was my encounter with this type of, shall we say, corporate speak, where they're trying to control the language. Now, I'm not advocating for not having friendly work environments, but most people are resilient, mature adults and can handle a bit of banter and conversation. And if someone isn't able to handle a bit of back and forth, particularly in my game where we deal with people in construction on the sites, you deal with engineers, they're not going to last very long. They're going to have a very stressful environment. And this video just seems terrifying, to be on edge. I mean, I have not been in a large corporate environment for years. I've been running my own practice. So, you know, I can be an asshole all the time, and I am. And, you know, that's part of the fun. So we'll go through their booklet. Now, I think this is the booklet that they provided. I'm not sure. I can't actually get access to any of their research. I'm not a member of their organization. Now, they make a few claims in this booklet, and I'm trying to find some of the evidence to back it up, particularly how they talk about the economic and profit advantages of diversity. Now, you want diversity of opinion, diversity of education background, diversity of experience. I can see all of that coming together to give you a more adaptable organization. But that's not identity politics. You know, there may be particular identities. Maybe you've got foreigners, you know, that will have a different experience that you can draw upon. But it's the experience that you want. You couldn't give a crap where they're from, or you shouldn't. But once you start going in this identity politics thing, it's a messy slope. So this is their booklet, Building Inclusion Through the Power of Language. Now, from the Diversity Council of Australia, and they've got their little Twitter handle there, and this is the PDF that we'll just go through, and I'll just read what jumps out to me. Now, inclusive language enables everyone in your organization to feel valued and respected and able to contribute their talents to drive organizational performance. Does language do that? Or does a paycheck? Or does succeeding at things? Or does stepping up and taking on responsibility? Because those are the things that I kind of think will make me feel valued and me feel respected. But I'm just a cis white male? Yeah, no, that's biased. Probably my unconscious bias. So inclusive language involves knowing about and showing respect for all members of our team and workplace. Yeah, well, yes, you don't need to tell me how to talk to show respect. It's accurate of how a more accurate view of the real world. Okay, so they want to restrict certain terms or discourage the use of certain terms like maybe mum and dad to children who are boarding a plane because they want to have a more accurate view of the real world. For the tiny proportion of people that aren't living with both a mother and father, or maybe they've got, oh, well, no, actually, no, it would be actually a fair portion now that may only have one mother or one father with them, or two fathers or two mothers. But do you want to cover people in cotton balls so they have no resilience? I don't know where these people are. I don't think I've encountered them that are so soft. Or maybe I'm starting to now that I'm getting on YouTube. Inclusive language reflects Australia's diversity. Okay. Now, what diversity? Diversity of culture? Diversity of experience? Diversity of identity? So, why language matters. This is where they're talking about really the profitability, productivity, innovation, all the benefits you can get by just implementing this Newspeak system or doublethink or whatever into your business. You'll get all these benefits because diversity is our strength. Now, I think they're doing it wrong. I think that you want a diversity of opinions and capabilities. If you get a whole bunch of left-leaning identity politics victims in your business, you are gonna go under. You're not going to be able to compete. I think a lot of this is coming from the universities going through the human rights. So here, chairman. See, this is funny here. Instead of saying chairman or you or guys, we could use words like chair white and whitey. So here they're painting the scenario of replacing words with white to make it seem racist. Now, this book or pamphlet was probably made before white privilege became an accepted racist term that people are using all the time. So, maybe they need to update that, guys. So, busting myths. This is so PC. People are too sensitive. So I'm experiencing these myths too. It can be difficult to walk in someone else's shoes and understand why they may feel excluded by particular words and phrases. There are more important issues. Now, who mentioned that? Didn't Jordan Peterson talk about that? Talking about language might seem small, but changing our language is an easy way to create productive workplace cultures which are inclusive of everyone. Now, I don't know if it's going to be productive. Is it going to if you have a business, now I'm just thinking from an architectural practice, is it going to be more productive if everyone has to tiptoe around using particular words and not worrying about wrongthink or offending particular people? Because later in this document, they encourage you to call out the people, to spy on your neighbors like the bloody Gestapo, and call out if they use the wrong terms, to stand up. Yeah, no, people are too sensitive. Okay, people need to be more resilient. Okay, some of you out there are becoming parents, Train your kids to be resilient. Bloody hell, you want to train them to be resilient because the world, anyway, I'm going off on a topic. So 5 steps to inclusive language. This will be good. 1, keep an open mind. We all come across new information, people and ideas that challenge our own personal ideas of what's normal. Language is no exception. Be open to changing what you have always thought is normal, respectful, and appropriate to say. Do we want corporate language to control it, or do we want our culture to control what's normal? They want you to focus on the person in step 2. So let's give some examples here. Instead of saying disabled employees, try employees with disabilities. Instead of saying Joan, who is confined to a wheelchair, is new to the team and is interested in leading this project. Joan is new to the team and is interested in leading this project. You just don't want it. You don't mention that they're in a wheelchair. So, here we go. The last one. It's great having Jenny Liu in the team as Asian people are so good with numbers. It's great having Jenny Liu in the team as she has excellent accountancy skills. See, that's bullshit right there. A lot of accountants aren't good with numbers. You know, they're making a stereotype that accountants are good with numbers. So you can see where they're going here. They're trying to filter your language. Now, if someone's in a wheelchair, are they going to be offended that you say they're in a wheelchair? Have you met anyone like that? They're not nice people to be around if they're like that. You know, this is a little worrying because you're going to be on the edge of your toes unless they indoctrinate you or train you to think like this. They want to control how you're thinking. So let's keep going. Number 3, consider context. Context matter. Language that may be fine outside of work can be non-inclusive at work. So here they give the example of a receptionist saying someone's for a meeting and a friend greeting outside work. Hey girl, how you doing? Well, now this is what I find quite interesting. If in doubt, ask. You don't always need to know all the answers. If you're not sure what terminology someone prefers, just ask them. So here they go. Seek advice or more information if the situation is unclear. DCA recommends contacting organizations who make up and represent given diversity groups. Okay, so this is where Peterson makes reference in many of his talks, particularly with the trans community, where he's receiving letters from members of the trans community saying, we don't want, or we didn't pick these people to represent us. They don't represent our views. They're making this whole process for us more difficult. And he emphasizes the fact that the activists in these groups, how do they justify their authority? How can they actually legitimately say they represent these communities? Just because you're afflicted by them, that doesn't give you the right to say you represent, or just say you're a member of this identity group, or you're afflicted by a disability. Doesn't mean to say that you can represent that entire group. Your political opinions aren't tied to other aspects of your being. That's the thing. You've got to, DCA, guys, you need to get your intersectionality down. You've got to have I haven't noticed anywhere here where you want to have diversity of political opinions in the workplace. Maybe because you only want one particular type of opinion, or it'll probably make work much more heated. So, yeah, that is a bit unpleasant for me. And finally, they say, keep calm and respond. Sometimes our unconscious biases mean we can say things that exclude others, even when we do not intend to. If you are called out for not being inclusive, so here you go. Here are some useful ways to respond, especially if you didn't mean it like that. Getting called out doesn't mean you need to defend yourself. Well, that's how people will react. if you're attacked, the reflex is to go on the defense. And you can see it everywhere on social media. Every single tweet, you can see it. So a lot of people are calling out. They think it's acceptable to call out and shame people for inappropriate behavior that they don't deem politically correct or appropriate. So this is just another element of that coming through. Instead of attempting to justify your actions, I was only joking, try focusing on understanding the other person's perspective. Okay, so you're a loony lefty. Say something like, I'm sorry, it wasn't my intention to offend you. Yeah, no, that's probably good advice. That's probably the best advice they've had in here. Because honestly, most of the time, you wouldn't want to offend a colleague. It's a bit base and vulgar if they think you are. So, here we go. The courage to call it. They want to encourage people to call out and shame your colleagues at work with this type of stuff. You know, they want to create new habits and say something directly. Here we go. Here's advice on how to use this guide. And this is the good bit. This is where they go into more intersections. Then you need to divide up the other. Here we go. For further information, see the guides for each diversity dimension. Okay, they call it a diversity dimension, not an identity group or identity politics. Age, culture, background, disability, gender, indigenous, sexual orientation, gender identity. So, oh, and here we have their sources. And I've tried to find this one here. An evidence-based model of inclusive leadership research report. So I want to find, where is it? The evidence that they're saying it increases your profitability in your business. Because my instincts tell me that the more, it's kind of like adding another layer of bureaucracy, another layer of just people keeping on the edge. So here we go. We know from research that inclusive cultures are high-performance cultures. They deliver greater performance and productivity. So that's in their locked-up research that I can't get to. I want to see what they're basing these claims on, because I don't trust any of them anymore. You've got all the feminists screaming on the internet for years about the wage gap, and they've got some things in their organization too about that, where it's been proven to be incorrect. When you normalize for everything, for people's choices, for careers, then the wage gap disappears. So I don't trust these claims. I want to find the evidence. And that's behind a paywall. You have to be a member to get access to that. So I'll follow this up and try and find some more information about it. So it looks like the pamphlet or a version of the pamphlet that was given out to people at Qantas. And this is where they want to have the inclusive language in place. Now, it may only be a suggestion. What harm is in using this? Everyone at work has to feel comfortable. But it's the idea of compelling people to speak. We're seeing it happen in Canada now, where they have compelled speech to use particular pronouns, where they can threaten to take you to the Human Rights Commission if you don't follow their rules. This is a similar step. We already have our anti-discrimination legislation here. We have all of this in place. You know, we have safe work environments where you can't discriminate against these particular things. We don't need to force people to say particular language. Now, I recognize this name, Oricon. They're a big engineering firm in the city. Now, it's, you know, these bigger corporate environments that I would like to, well, when I engage engineers, because as an architect, often I have to engage them under me. And I have to take responsibility for all of their work. Now, do you think I want to go to a business that is going to be creating their pool of employees to meet arbitrary ideological quotas? Or do you think I want to go to an employer that says, we want to get a merit-based outcome. We want to get the best people for the job. We want to have diversity of experience. We want to have diversity of ideas, but we also want to have the best qualified people. Because in engineering as well, there's in the STEM field, there's an imbalance of the genders going into the profession. And the other day I met a young lady. She was 18, and she's over in Australia on holiday. Now, she was very frustrated at university. She'd started engineering, and she just had a meeting with some other people in class, and they were going, why are you working so hard? You're a girl. You get hired no matter what. And she was obviously a very smart girl. She started up her own business, and she was funding her trip around the world, and that pissed her off. She stormed out of the room. She shared with me that in the UK, they've got quotas where the employers have to report back to the government how many people they hired if they're meeting gender quotas. So how do you think, it's all optional. It's all optional. But is it going to lead to the best outcome? Is it going to ensure that you've got a merit-based society? Or is it just going to be easier to just fill a seat to tick a box? Control what people say. So we can be inclusive. So we can virtue signal. So we can get brownie points. So where to go from here? You can't. We have a look at the people in the Diversity Council. We'll look at their members list. And there you go. There are a lot of organizations that are getting this type of information provided to them, and I assume are disseminating it to their teams. So this is why when you go around the place, people aren't using normal language anymore. This is insane. I recognize so many names here. It'd be impossible to boycott all of this or to make a stand. Wow. This is crazy. I honestly think most of them are doing it for brownie points. They'd have to be. They can't be all handing this stuff out to their employees. So Qantas is no different to anyone else on this list that have been provided with the information. I don't think I could handle working in an environment like that, where you'd have to be too much on edge, or where you're compelled to use particular language, or where you have to switch on and switch off in the workplace, or where they make employment decisions to fill quotas or to meet inclusive targets rather than performance-based. So, thank you for this episode. Thank you for joining me on this. It's kind of thrown me now that I'm seeing so many names here that are involved in this, because I honestly thought a lot of this stuff was just, YouTube nutbags, crazy feminists that Sagan and Mikado Thunderfoot would make fun of. But the fact that we have all these businesses trying to compel their staff to speak in particular ways, even just by participating in this organization. And if that's going to work through to how they make their human resources employment decisions, it's a little, well, it kind of makes complete sense. It really does. What scares me more than anything is that these organizations are going to only start dealing with companies that have the Diversity Council of Australia badge or stamp, and then they're going to start using it. We only work with DCA members. It's going to start restricting the market and add additional costs to businesses and pass it on to a whole lot of other organizations. So I know a lot of names here, a few that I've worked with, and I would rather they spend their time actually running their projects properly than dealing with this type of stuff. So guys, thank you very much. I hope I shed some light on this for you, and remember, this is happening, and we just need to speak the truth and let people know about it. It's not just Qantas, it is a lot of businesses here in Australia. It's affecting how people work, and it is going to just chip away bit by bit at what people can say, what freedoms they have. And it may seem harmless, but if someone's a rude bastard at work, they should get fired. You don't need all these bloody pamphlets and crap to regulate speech and create safe environments. They should be fired. It's that simple, you know. If you use the word fag in a workplace, you should be fired. You don't need this shit. So it's gotten me upset, guys, and I'm rambling. So I'm going to go, and I'll talk to you later. Take care.